If you use colorful language, that's okay as well. What else? What are our other rules, Nick?
That's really about it. I mean, don't
So
die.
have a beer and swear a lot. Those are the 2 rules.
Oh, and
there you go.
And if you got a burp, lean in.
Oh, that's right.
Nigel likes to
There we
judge
go.
the burps.
Yeah.
All right.
And then just for recording purposes, when we're done, I'm going to I'll hit turn off the recorder button. Just hang out for a couple minutes. It's going to upload your video and audio files from your computer to the cloud.
Okay. All right.
That just helps me get the best possible file.
Yeah. I think
Very good.
It feels weird. I totally tore this place apart, the studio.
Why?
And just put everything. Well, because I took a lot of it to our show.
Oh, yeah.
But then also, Chili Fest a few weeks ago. So I tore it all apart, and it's just getting put back together.
It's good practice, though, for you.
Yeah, whatever.
So I think we've covered all of this, haven't we? I'm going to take this hat off. I'm about to get hot.
It's going to get hot here. Is this my drinker?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just can't.
Now you guys have 2 separate cameras, but I get a sense that you're sitting right next to one another.
Oh, we
right?
are.
Yeah.
We are.
The window almost matches up. That's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, he's basically that way. Yeah. So we're in it's an old post office where I didn't know this, but post offices have vaults. So the vault is the sound studio.
Yeah, we turned it into a studio.
Nice.
Yeah. So it works out pretty well. It works out for Nick's day job.
Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm at the back of the bar.
Really?
Actually. So if you might hear swearing and I'm right next to the kitchen, so if there is swearing, that'll come from there first for sure.
Got it.
And,
that's awesome.
So,
no, this we appreciate you coming on. This is going to be a treat for us because we if nothing else, people in Kansas City know about Mike's Beer Bar.
Well, and we consider the stop at your bar after the festival part of the pilgrimage now. So.
Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, everybody, when I tell them how many beers you have, they're like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's got a lot of beers."
It's it's now my dream to figure out how to copy you.
Well, it's
or if you just want to open a KC location.
No, I would rather let you copy. I mean, at this point, I'm fortunate enough to have 2 places right next to one another. Right, I have the restaurant next door, and I'm blessed in that regard because I have 2 more or less similar type businesses that each have their own challenges,
right.
But I can walk in between them. Right, having to
that's nice.
Get in a car and worry about a third one is always a consideration. That I've had when looking around.
That's great. I think we're about ready to start, aren't we?
Are you ready to do this thing?
Yeah. So stand by, and we'll get going.
All right.
Beers with Nigel is poured for you by Dire Oil Graphics, promotional products and design. They cover your brand bumper to bumper with graphic design, promo products, and print. See what Dire Oil Graphics can build for you at direoil.com. That's DYEROIL.com.
And welcome to Beers with Nigel. It's a podcast about beer and other stuff.
Other things.
And other stuff. also, for those who don't know, we are the best local podcast of Kansas City 2023, thanks to the pitch, Casey. So
all those readers, all those listeners who voted for us.
Nick didn't think we were going to win, but we won. Yeah. Welcome to the show, Mike from Mike's Beer Bar in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. What's going on, Mike?
Not too much, guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. You've been on
I'm
our list.
excited about this one.
Yeah, you've been on our list for probably a couple of years, man. There's
what took you so long? Come on now, let's go.
Yeah. Well, we had to work up the courage to talk to you this last time we were there.
Yeah.
And then what if he says no? We invite him,
maybe we'll get a Lisa from Rhythm Brewing to come on now. She knows that you've come on because we've been chasing her for 3 years.
You want me to make a phone call on your behalf? I'm sure.
Please,
yes.
Thank you. Yes. Well, the last time we saw you, right after Barrel and Flow, she swore up and down. She said, text me next week and we'll make it happen. And that was what? How long? That's been.
Well, that was in August.
That's August.
It is now the end of November.
I know. She told me she was going to figure out how to get, she has a distributor that I think goes down into New York for her that also has a Pennsylvania. And she said, I'm going to get you that beer.
Yeah.
Give me a week and, they're going to contact you. And it was the same August that she told me that. So sequel opportunity.
Yeah, heard.
Well, look, we should set this up a little bit. We have you on because of our annual pilgrimage to Pittsburgh for the Barrel and Flow Festival. And I don't know what the connection is, how you got hooked up with that, but you end up having all of the collabs in your bar, all the collab beers that are made for that festival. And they're included in your 3-ring binder of a beer menu. I mean, this thing is your place, Mike's Beer Bar. It's across from PNC Park in Pittsburgh, PA. It is it's a thing of beer beauty.
It sure is.
Well, they say go big or go home, right? So that's what we do on the beer list. But yeah, I've had a relationship with Day and with Barrel and Flow since it was Fresh Fest. Actually, their first shows were just up the street from here. First events were just up the street from here. About 100-yard walk. And that's kind of how I got involved about 5 years ago. And, Day had a partner at the time. And the year that I first got involved, it was a bit of a hectic time. And, things I think didn't go as well as Day had hoped. And I think that was the point in time where he became solo with running the event. And he said, Mike, what would you like? And I said, Day, if you can just talk to every brewery and ask them if they would to bring beer for me, that I would be happy to buy. All I'd love to do is have all the beer that you have. I'll even wait until after after the event, and I'll put it all on. So I don't. My interest is not to upstage the event, but really is to be able to get access to all of these great beers from around the country. And I said, if you just don't mind, as you're coordinating and talking to each brewer and brewery, can you just ask them if they'd be willing to bring some beer along? And it kind of started organically and kind of maybe even a little bit, under the table, if you will, with people bringing beer until, one of the local distributors finally also has donated their time, I know, to help register beer and then, more formally allow me to, purchase the beer in a way that the state gets its say and its share of taxes
and
well.
their cut. Right.
Exactly.
Don't think that state's going to let that out for very long.
Right.
So I'm curious. I know we talked briefly, well, not really briefly, when we were there in Pittsburgh the last time. You have a whole nother history before Mike's Beer Bar, right?
That's right.
Before we get to that history, everybody has the story of what they were drinking before they discovered like craft beer. What do you remember? What were you drinking like in college? Where were you back in those days?
So mine's an interesting one, right? Because I come from I'm fourth generation now in what I would call the beer business. My great grandfather owned a bar, back before Prohibition.
Wow.
After Prohibition, my grandparents were one of the first licensees to have a beer distributorship. In the state of Pennsylvania, of which then when my grandfather passed away, my dad took over. And so I kind of grew up in an environment that I lived right above the beer distributor. I mean, it's a small retail distributor. We had a handful of bars. I mean, I used to deliver beer, before I went to school in high school to bars that were open early in the morning because they were taking the overnight shift, the third shift from the steel mills back when steel was, the primary source of how people worked, way back in the 70s. So as a result of that, I had the opportunity early on to very clearly understand that I didn't like a lot of the domestics. I just didn't like the taste. I wanted something a little more full bodied. And so actually mine was probably more imports. My dad had imports. He had, a lot of, traditional clubs around here, one being the German club. And so, my first tastes were more German style lagers, and if I could get my hands on a Heineken back there, and that was a luxury. So I was less fun at college parties because I wasn't going to drink any of the stuff that they were drinking, and I was more wanting to host them because then I could control at least what I could drink
there you
when
go.
I was going there.
I'm curious when that shift happened, because it used to be, you're right, the beer snobs used to be the imports,
Right.
and then now it's the it's the craft from within the states. When did that actually happen? When did that shift? Was that early 90s, late 80s?
I mean, probably 80s, I'm going to guess.
I would say 80s. I'm probably the only one alive back then, right? So I guess I have to say it, but
I was drinking in the 80s, trust me.
So, but I
was early 90s.
What I remember was probably the first, Sam Adams and Sierra Nevada and Pete's Wicked Ale being kind of the beers that you could kind of get access to. And that was late 80s, maybe early 90s.
Yeah.
And a funny story, I mean, when I met my wife not long after, she was one of the first reps for Sam Adams as they were going national.
Wow.
Back in the early 90s. So it was, that was the best job that ever happened to me that I didn't have, because, once a quarter, the sample truck arrived with all the new seasonals and things that were coming, and I couldn't wait. So
that's awesome.
I think my first, getting fancy with beer was Boulevard. Obviously, I'm from Kansas City, but the Foster's oil can.
Oh yeah, yeah. You couldn't go wrong with the Foster's. Yeah, I think my 100th check-in on Untapped was a Foster's. So, did you always have designs that you've worked in the business of opening a beer bar? How did that come about?
I think we all have that dream, right? At one point or another in our lives where we say we want to do it. I think most of us, if we have a spouse or significant other, we wake up, share the dream. We'll get told that no uncertain circumstances is that going to happen. And then we drop it and move on. I got my wife on a good day, but there was always a point in time, that I really thought that I'd end up somehow back in the business. But as far as owning a bar, it was not something that I did as a kid. I didn't serve, or I wasn't a bartender. I was in the industry, but I was a truck driver, if you will, a delivery driver, or worked the retail side selling beer. So, when it came time for me to retire a little bit early from, the career that I had, I wanted to own a few businesses, but I didn't know where to go or what to do. And I thought, I got to figure something out in beer. And specifically, when I was thinking about it, it was about beer. And so then I said, what the heck? Let me take a look and see about owning a bar. I didn't have the idea that I wanted to be a bartender, right? It was mid-50s, when I made this decision, or when I got involved. So, it had to be a business that had a bit of scale. And I really wanted, after my career, to kind of, what I would say, run businesses, right? Be, more of a general manager type.
Yeah.
And I'd probably, not knowing exactly what I'd get into when you're a, bar or restaurant owner, you realize that, you can do it. But if you really want to, have a good handle on the business, you've got to be involved. And so, when I got involved in the initial stages without bartending experiences, I was the bar back. And by the way, as an owner, being a bar back is probably the best place you can be, right?
Yeah.
Because you're behind the bar, your eyes can scan the whole business, and you still are somehow involved, and you can engage with the people around you, at the bar. And, one thing led to another, and, now I'm, many days, especially when it gets busy, in the kitchen, actually, working at the fry station.
We're fully aware. When we came to, we
Right.
came, we're like, is Mike around? Yeah, he's back there. He's on the salad station.
Yeah, I mean, so sometimes you go back and you say, I think I could be doing that job. Instead of standing here and being frustrated, waiting for something to happen, I think I could go back there and do it myself. And so you got to put your money where your mouth is. And, at some point I started to enjoy it too. And, So when it's needed, I'm not on the schedule, but when it's needed, I'm happy to go back there.
You're like you come off the bench like that utility guy. Got it.
Right.
So how long has it been since Mike's has opened?
5 years. It'll be 5 years coming up like the first week in December, actually.
Wow. And so before I ask the next question, your previous career was not even in this country, right?
A lot of it wasn't.
That's right. Your question.
You're stealing my questions.
So I worked in consumer products. So I worked for 2 companies over about 33 years. First one was Procter & Gamble. It still, I think, has a pretty big manufacturing facility in Kansas City, or at least used to.
Yeah.
It might have been their food products that we sold out there, or was out there. Duncan Hines. Is Duncan Hines still out there?
I think that's still a thing.
No?
I don't think it is, but I could be wrong.
No?
But
anyhow. So I worked for P&G for 25 years in a company called Mondelez, which is part of Kraft Foods, or split off from Kraft Foods for the last 8. And I was hired here in Pittsburgh, went out to New York, was working in New York for a while. They wanted me to go to Cincinnati, which is where the headquarters of Procter & Gamble is. And I didn't want to go to a headquarter location. So I guess in corporate speak, I politely said, anywhere but Cincinnati. And it landed me in Russia. So
there's your lesson.
Very quickly, be careful what you ask for, right? So you might get it. And so I went back in the mid-'90s, not long after the Soviet Union collapsed, to Russia, and was there for what was supposed to be 3 years. A financial crisis hit the country at the time, and I ended up staying for 6. But as a result of that, I kind of fell in love with emerging markets and how emerging markets for business were run, and over time became a specialist. And as a result of that, I spent 23 of those 33 years overseas. So I lived twice over 2 assignments, 8 years in Russia, 3 years in Israel, 4 in Romania, and then the last 7 in Switzerland. Almost all of them with a focus either directly or regionally on emerging countries and emerging economies.
Did you drink? I'm sure you drank beer in all those countries, right?
Oh yeah, I don't speak a lot of languages, but I can almost order a beer in quite a few, right? So,
listen, you do what you got to do to survive.
I mean, that's right.
A
good skill to have.
It's the first thing you learn, right? So,
I mean, how many people don't know dos cervezas por favor, right?
Right.
I was taught by a hearing impaired person how to get beer, and this means beer. So
okay,
so and it works every time,
Have you had much call to use that?
Once I teach people what it means, yes.
Okay.
Because people love that. I mean, you can just be very, but you got to make sure as a beer tender, you got to scan the bar, because somebody might be doing it for like 5 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So my next question is, 5 years in, you went from totally different business to I mean, what's the journey been like for you over the last 5 years owning a beer bar?
Well, quite a journey actually, with COVID in between.
Yeah.
So when I bought this place, it kind of it ticked off a lot of boxes. I was looking. At the time, I was living in New Jersey, still had my corporate career, but I knew at some point my assignment which was a global assignment. So although I moved back to the U.S., I was still traveling and working a lot overseas, and primarily, again, with a focus on emerging markets. But I knew that at some point I'd have to work in the U.S. business and didn't want to do it. So kind of in parallel, I was looking to see, what type of business I could find. And I've moved about 26, 27 times in my life.
Wow.
And figured, maybe this next one, maybe is going to be I won't call it the last one, but, I want to go to a place where it's not such a difficult, new assimilation. And for a lot of the moves I had previously, the kids were in school. So you meet new people through your kids or through work. And so I thought, why don't I go back home to Pittsburgh? I've been gone for 30 some odd years. I know a lot of people there. And so I started looking for places here. And one day through email, I saw that the bar that's in the location that I'm in was available for purchase, was for sale. And it ticked a number of boxes. It was a beer bar. It did not have a kitchen. How they had a license and didn't have a kitchen, I guess it's a story for another show. But, so I didn't have to know anything about the food business other than I had to build the kitchen because I had planned to do that. It was in the old zip code that I grew up in. So I grew up here on the north side, just near, PNC Park. It was absentee run, so it had a general manager already. So I didn't have to worry about opening and closing the doors, on my first day. And it's 20 steps away from the most beautiful ballpark in the United States. We're a little bit subjective, but certainly PNC Park is, on a lot of people's bucket lists of ballparks they want to visit. And so, I jumped in, made an offer and, ended up with the, closing on the business, like I said, first week in December 5 years ago. And then went about essentially learning the business, learning how to run a bar, as a business, as it were, while putting in a kitchen. At one point, about a year later, the owner of the business next door, which was a restaurant primarily, came to me and asked me if I'd be interested to buy. And I was operating in a neighborhood where I didn't have necessarily the best of competitors. And what I mean by that is, they weren't making the neighborhood a destination.
Yeah.
Right. They were taking advantage of the opportunity during baseball, and otherwise they weren't doing much. And I thought, what better way than to maybe control my own destiny? I'll buy the place next door. I wanted to have more than, a business, when I began the process. And I closed on the business late in January that year, which just so happened to be 6 weeks before COVID.
We've heard this story.
Yeah. It's a mini series.
So sometimes, the timing works. I mean, I got a good deal on the business. 6 weeks later would have been a much better deal, but, and so there I had, two businesses, the kitchen that I had here at the beer bar was designed to essentially serve almost finger foods, right? So, a handful of appetizers. I had a high-speed oven and a flat top. There's no gas, so therefore there's no fryers or anything in the back. There's no hood system, external hood system, I should say. And during COVID, I could only really I couldn't afford to keep really either place open, but I kept one place open, kept everybody on the staff, the managers on the staff. We went about renovating during the closed periods the restaurant next door. But as people wanted to, come back out and venture out, we had either outdoor dining or the 6 feet of space that was a requirement in most places. And the beer bar had a bigger space, and it's a much more open space than the restaurant next door. The only challenge was the restaurant kitchen had a wall separating us. Mm-hmm. And so, I really couldn't open as a bar in the classical side. I just had to use the bar more or less as a restaurant.
Right. So
we knocked down a wall, in essence, and served the bar side from the restaurant side. And, we muddled our way through for about, 18 months, through the challenges of COVID. The first year there was baseball, if I remember now, that happened like towards the end of the year, but no fans in the stands.
Right. I remember that.
Right. And then I think the next year it started with, I think maybe 25% capacity. And then it went up and up and up, over the course of that summer. And so we started to make a little bit of momentum during, that summer. Ironically, what happened during COVID, which was a huge benefit to us, is the reputation of the business when I first bought it and from the years prior was that you would come here if you were going to a ball game.
Yeah.
Because we were open during COVID, we became a neighborhood bar because we were one of the few places around that was open.
Yeah.
And, people, I think, looked at the sign, saw Mike's Beer Bar, and, thought, Mike is like Mike's Hard Lemonade, or, any other, named businesses. There is no Mike, right? It's just a chain like all the other places around. And, I think it helped a lot that we were one of the few places in the area where, an owner operator was here, and, people came to meet and to see me. And, so we became for a couple of years really kind of a local bar and a local restaurant for people.
Yeah.
Who still come back today, but more or less they look at me and wink and smile and say, "We're not coming back during baseball because it's a real, we can't have the place to ourselves anymore. Right? We have to share it with all the masses." So they wait for baseball to end, and ironically, that's helped our business the last couple of years because, if I used to tell people, like, if the business here made $100 a year, it made $150 during baseball, it broke even during football, and it gave back $50 during the winter.
Yeah.
And so it was like owning a Dairy Queen on a New Jersey beach in February, right? Now that we have a larger clientele, that really found us during COVID, that's really helped us kind of smooth out the businesses and the peaks and valleys, and makes this a much more sustainable business. And very importantly means that I don't have to lay off any staff when we end baseball like I used to have to do.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I could see that.
Nick, I have an important question though. He's talking about converting to the restaurant. We got to ask about a specific thing on your menu because Nigel is enamored with a certain order. Where'd you come up with the idea of the steak and you grill it yourself on a
stone?
Meat on the
stone. Steak on a stone. Yes.
Yeah. Nigel talks about this for like a month and a half before we get there every year.
Oh, I have video of it. What are you talking about?
Isn't it a great experience?
Oh my God. And for a beer bar, that's not what you expect.
That's awful fancy for a beer bar.
Yeah. And
I
love it.
Pinky's out.
So before I answer that, I mean, the story on it being the beer bar, right? The steak on a stone is actually the domain of the restaurant, right? North Shore Tavern, which is the restaurant I own next door.
Yeah.
But when we opened during COVID, and this essentially became a restaurant for a year and a half because of how people were dining, this is what I served over on the Mike side. When things got better, I tried to take it off the menu over here.
Yeah.
And people were violent. Oh, yeah, it was pretty bad. And so you say, okay, you know what? Give people what they want. I now run, one kitchen anyway for both spaces. And we serve it on both places. But to answer your question, when I lived in Switzerland, there was a restaurant there in Zurich that served steak on a stone. And I became enamored with it for two really primary reasons. One is I loved the experience. I thought the meat, if it's a good piece of meat, it cooks up so well on the stone. The stone's a lava. It's either lava or granite. So it's a dry heat. So what it does to the meat is it's fabulous.
Yeah.
I mean, it creates a great experience. But the other part reason that I brought it here was that restaurant, although they differently than what I do, because I have a broader menu that also we have items that aren't also on the stone. Their primary focus only was steak on a stone. They would open at 6 at night, close at 9:30, turn the table 3 times.
Wow.
Okay. And, I used to go there. I used to go watch the local hockey team, and they would have a game at about 7:25. Would be face off, and I'd have a 6 o'clock reservation because they did 6, 7:15, and 8:30. Right. And what I became enamored with is I'd go in, sit down at 6 o'clock. At 6:05, my beer was on the table. At 6:10, my meal was on the table.
Yeah.
So they eliminated all of that time you sit in a restaurant of you waiting for your meal by essentially not giving you a choice but to order something that was on a stone. And, which is something that's quite easy and fast to prepare because all you have to worry about are the sides at that point because the stone is cooking in front of you at the table. But by, if I get the meal at 6:10, 6:15, by 6:45, 6:50, I'd had a second beer. I was finished with my meal. I wasn't rushed. I was looking at my watch, never like worried about when face-off was. 7 o'clock, I had to check. I was out the door.
Yeah.
At 7:05, I mean, the line out the door was waiting to come in for the 7:15. And so I never missed a face-off. I never felt rushed, right? And I had a wonderful meal that I didn't really have to wait a very long time for.
Yeah.
Now it's, and I thought, well, here I'm in a kind of a similar circumstance. I mean, that restaurant was about the distance between here and for us, Acrisure Stadium, which is in the same neighborhood, but it's probably 500, 600 yards away versus PNC Park being right across the street. So it was still a 15-minute walk. But here I get a bull rush, right? I mean, for a ball game, everybody comes in at 5 o'clock, kaboom. And, this helps, but, we also have a regular, I'd call it a ballpark type menu, right? So it's handhelds, burgers and salads and appetizers and things like that, that people also want. So I can't get away with only doing stones, particularly here at the bar. However, in the off season, we can do it over there. But, I know it's a long-winded, answer to your question, but the restaurant was in Zurich, Switzerland.
Love it.
I fell in, and it's just fabulous. And so I stole the idea, if you will, and the concept. There are a bunch of restaurants in Europe that do this, but and thought, what the hell?
Look, great business owners borrow.
Right.
What do you call it, Nick?
Good business owners borrow. Great business owners steal outright.
Well, he calls it R&D.
R&D, rob and duplicate, baby.
Speaking of robbing, we're out of beer, so Nick, you need to do it.
We do a thing.
So, so Mike, we have a thing called mystery beers. This is the bag, as you might imagine, came from a golf course. The person who got it is not speaking. But so I'm going to give Nick the bag. He's going to pull a beer out of the bag. He has no idea what I brought, which is always fun. And then we play a stupid game called we'll taste the beer, and we have a game called Guess the ABV. So,
okay, all right.
So if you were here in person, we would pour the beer. We would tell you where it's from, what it is, what style, and then we would all try to guess the ABV. And if there was anything left in the can, you would get it. If you win. Yeah, it's like Price is Right.
Price is Right rules. It's
Price is Right. Okay.
Yeah, closest without going over. What we got there?
So beyond the taste with the description, I can still play. Is that right? It's just guess the ABV.
100%.
Absolutely. Okay. Yes. It works remotely as well.
And you know what? We might even send a winner's package.
Is that what we're going to start doing now?
We've done it before.
I don't think Mike needs any beer.
No, that's true. I don't know what we can send.
I mean,
well, it's better be local, whatever you send.
I heard. I mean, of course.
That box fade, bro. Oh, it's from our buddies at Vine Street Brewing.
Yes.
Who had their first time at the festival last year. Mm-hmm. It's a hazy IPA.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember this, Mike. At Barrel and Flow, we were, our dudes from Vine Street were there for the first time, and it was a big deal that they were there. Mm-hmm. And I told them, I'm like, you guys need to walk around because people want to meet you. People want to know who these people are. And so we were sitting at their booth pouring beer, and you came walking up, and you had a Mike's Beer Bar shirt on. I was like, are you the Mike?
See, I told you there is a Mike. Right?
And speaking of God, where was I going with it? Oh, the what happens at the bar. Was it last year? It was at what was the concert when we showed up?
Oh, it was Metallica.
Yes.
Oh, Metallica. That's right.
You didn't have a baseball crowd. You had a Metallica crowd, and the concert wasn't until like 7. And it was like 11 a.m. and everybody was there.
Oh yeah.
2 years ago, Pittsburgh had Metallica. I think Paul Simon.
Yeah.
And Garth Brooks
in the same weekend.
In the same weekend as Barrel and Flow.
So the 2 years. So it was 3 and all at PNC Park, by the way. So Billy Joel was on Thursday.
Yeah.
You had the 80s hair bands, right? So Poison, Def Leppard,
that's
Motley
what it was.
Crue, right? And then the Steelers actually had an exhibition game.
Yeah, because we went.
Yeah, we went
on that Saturday, right? Yeah. And then Metallica closed it all off on Sunday.
Crazy.
And we closed Monday because we were totally exhausted.
I'm sure. And then this year we caught. There was a game. And it was because we talked about it because it was packed, and the game started, and we were like, okay, everybody went to the game.
It's gone.
But
yeah, and you're good until they come back. Right? So
yeah. So you want to taste this? It's that box fade, bro.
A little hazy.
Little hazy IPA. Yeah.
With our barrel and flow tasters today.
oh, very nice.
Yeah. We're on brand. That's tasty.
And every beer they do is great.
Yeah. What do you think the ABV is? It's just a hazy?
Yep, just a hazy.
Yeah. I'm going to say 6.7%.
But just to be mean, 6.9.
6.9. Got it.
I had my first instinct was 6.4.
All right.
Okay, let's see. Actual
retail ABV. Oh Lord.
Now we need readers.
You know what? Ding ding ding! It's 6.4%.
Oh, how about that?
I mean that actually makes sense. I mean, you own a beer bar.
No, actually, I think one of the owners was at Mike's with us.
Yeah, Kemet.
Kemet was there.
Yeah, Kemet came. So check this out. 6 degrees of separation, right? So I worked in television news for a long time. I worked in New Orleans. I'm on the Facebooks a couple of weeks ago, and you had a guest bartender, Ron Smiley.
Yeah,
I've known Ron for
the
years.
Other day.
Yes.
The other day.
I was like, what is Ron doing at Mike's beer bar? I was like, man, it's Pittsburgh is and we tell people Pittsburgh is a hidden jewel of a city. It really is. It's got so much going for it. It's got such a different vibe. You know, as even the people who come to Barrel and Flow from Philly, they're like, no, Philly's East Coast. Pittsburgh is Midwest.
It is Midwest. You're right about that. Yeah.
It just has a different vibe, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's very Midwest. Just, a couple hundred years older than we are.
Yeah, but think of it this way. I mean, you guys started because nobody could be happy being here, right? They just kept going until they could find a place to be happy. Right?
There you
we
go.
all came from the East, right?
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. So as far as like, let's talk about how many beers you have on tap and how many you have in cans. And is there are you
was that the original plan?
Yeah.
So when I bought the place, we had 50 taps and they had 500 beers, right? But they didn't talk too much about it. And at the time, I've got 8 doors, 2 in the cooler, and half of them were imports at the time, and half were what I'd call national craft beers. And first summer, I was always going to the breweries around and thinking, why aren't we selling more from the local breweries? Yeah. And you can't get them through distributors. You got to make an effort. If they're not doing their own distribution, then you've got to go after and look. And so what I said, I chose a month, and I said, we're going to do my first year, all local beers on the 50 taps.
Wow.
But we struggled because we had to go out and, find 50 beers from guys to sell to us. And some of them said, look, we'll do it now. But I can't guarantee you we're going to sell more because we got a 3-barrel system and we're selling just, all of it ourselves and whatnot. And we said, look, just let's, let me do them, let me market it. I'm going to market you guys. We're going to do it in the summer. We have baseball crowds. We can then direct people to, because most baseball, fans are always looking for breweries to go to.
Yeah.
I said, so it's a perfect fit. And, we had some success with it. And I said, I'm going to just push harder and see what I need to do. And 2 things happened. One, I essentially extended the tower I replaced the tower. It went from 50 taps to 80. Go big or go home, right?
As one does. Got it.
So, and then said, look, and then we're going all local. And I had a woman at the time who was doing a lot of the ordering with me, and she's since moved on and actually works for a brewery and another one now, and said, we're just going to call and you're going to, beg, borrow, and whatever we have to do to get people to just open the door for us and see what we have to do. And, and so that's what happened. I mean, I spent the first year with the car driving, 4 and 5 breweries a day sometimes, picking up sixtels, quarters, or halves, whatever they had, and cans. And then we hit COVID.
Yeah.
Right. And, from one day to the next, you got 80 taps. You got typically, 120 barrels in your cooler, right?
Yeah.
So, and they close you down from one day to the next. Thankfully, we had bought a crowler machine.
Yeah.
And so we were just having pallets and pallets and pallets of cans, crowler cans shipped in. And that's how we stayed afloat, selling local beer, during COVID.
Yeah.
And frankly, the breweries were finding it hard to sell to me at the time because they were also doing the same thing and doing it quite well, right? I mean, they didn't usually have a kitchen to worry about. Their places were too small to have any indoor.
Yeah.
And there were lines outside waiting to pick up beer, that they were canning for the most part. And so, as things opened up and, their business normalized, more and more of them started to hire people to do distribution. And I think because, we treat the beer, I'd like to think that we treat the beer right. We manage it proactively. Our bartenders, my managers take the first level Cicerone test and have to pass, just so that they can more adequately understand, serve, and talk about beer. And I encourage all of my staff to do it. It just kind of became, it grew more and more. And frankly, we're in the location that we are. It also works out really well because baseball fans, when they come in, what do we do when we go to another town? First thing we want to know is what's the good beer around.
Yeah.
And we're able to say, hey, first of all, glad you came in here. We've got 1,000 hotel rooms, within probably 500 yards of us.
Wow.
Try these beers that we have, and we'll tell you exactly where to go if you want to go check out the brewery and, do a deep dive. And so it's worked out, pretty well. We now have, half of the doors of, so I've got 4 doors. So, 260, 270 beers. And on a usual day, there's more than 300 different local beers represented by about 50 or 55 breweries that do distribution, within about 40, 50 miles of Pittsburgh. I told you I had 4 doors of imports when I bought the place. Now I have like 2.5 shelves in one door, right? I mean, and then the rest is kind of national craft. And, Allie, who's my, Allie, who you probably, she was with me at Barrel and Flow, although she was at a wedding and didn't come until a bit later. She, every Monday, I mean, she's engages with all of the, the local breweries, but I tell people we do inventory every Monday but not for value of the beer. We do it for dates. And anything that gets within like 2 months of when we think it is either adequate for the style, if it doesn't have a sell by date, or 2 months within the sell by date, we don't have a happy hour. We have we'll call it a fire sale list. I mean, beer's still good. It's still within, well within the range of, what it ought to be. And so if she sees something, we put it on the list, and, it usually takes not more than a couple of days to move on. And for her, it also means there's no risk that she ever has to worry, right? And, I don't want to try this style. The boss is going to come down on me and say, no, we want to sell different styles. And for many people, they're going to be afraid. Farmhouse sales. I mean, I can't tell you how much we sell when we put it on sale, like if it's on tap, because people will buy it on sale and they say, I love this style. This is really good, right?
Yeah.
But they won't even consider it if it's a regular price because they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Right? And then they taste it and they're like, so what I have with her is it's no risk. I mean, there's always something that's just not going to catch on. It's going to be, not all brewers styles, are loved by everybody. And, sometimes they need a little help. But it works into a promotion scheme for us as well. And it allows us always to keep the beer fresh.
Yeah. I mean,
they need that push to find a new style.
And I love that because like the farmhouse, it's like, Yeah, if it's on sale, good deal's a state of mind, right? So, so that all it's amazing what you guys are doing is being caretakers of the beer. Even when you think it's going to be out of date, you put it on sale, and it might be something, because me as a beer tender, my favorite thing is for somebody to tell me I don't like beer, or what's the closest thing you got to Bud Light,
Right?
Those are my two favorite questions.
Yep.
And shout out to the brewery I work at, Transparent. We have a French saison, and more often than not,
So
I get somebody who doesn't like beer to drink that beer.
Mm-hmm.
Not even our lightest beer. It's not even a Kolsch, but it has so many things going on. I've got a lady. She comes in, and all she said was, "I want something champagne-y."
Right.
And I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to give you." It's called Wee Bit Fancy. So I gave her that French saison, and when she comes in, that's all she drinks.
Right.
So you guys are.
I wouldn't hate that night, actually, just drinking that beer for a night.
No,
I'd be okay with that.
It'd be fine.
Yeah.
So I love you as have as many beers as you have, but also you care about what beers you have. Because the grocery stores, they don't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? It's
for them, it's a numbers game.
Yeah, if it's out of date, it's out of date. They don't really care.
Right.
But you are doing the Lord's work.
Well, I would rather dump it. Right?
Yeah.
Once it's past, code, you dump it, right? I mean, there's no value in selling somebody something, that is going to be substandard, right? It looks, bad on the brewery, and I owe them more than that. It looks, bad on us. I mean, okay, we make a mistake. You bite the bullet, right?
Yeah.
And we have a kitchen, so even before it goes bad, if we 2 months before, if we're not sold in a month, it'll go in the beer cheese, right? I mean, why not? So,
I heard. Yeah, it's going.
That's repurposing.
It's going to a good home.
Right.
Repurposing.
Regardless.
Go. Yeah, but if we miss on something, or if it goes out of code, then pour it down the drain.
So is it a? I mean, when you guys are doing the inventory, it sounds like it's daunting, but it also sounds like it's a lot of fun at the same time. To be like, okay, yeah, we've got this beer list, but at the same time, we're curating it and massaging it to make sure it's all good.
Right. And she's always looking forward, right? I mean, because we got inventory here, and there's always a season, right? There's always a new season, and there's always a time when your style profile starts to change, right? And you move from warm weather to cooler weather, and the darker beers and the stouts are coming back, and you're not worried about having 2 or 3 on tap anymore. You're talking about, all right, how can I have a whole lot of variety with 7, 8, or 9,
right?
Of our taps with stouts, porters, and other dark beers that and not just the same, right? You can't have 5 similar stouts. You want to have 5 dissimilar stouts, right? That have unique profiles. And so, you have to be in the frame of mind where it's kind of it's fun and a game, right? You're giving people, and you get to then benefit when people come in and they, in particular from draft, right? They, we'll sample anything to anybody, right?
Yeah.
So that they have a good experience with it, because that's what we want, right? You have a good experience. You're more than willing to then come back here to find something that you may not be able to find somewhere else. Yeah, you have a good experience here with a standard, Blue Moon. You can find a Blue Moon anywhere, right? Here we want you to have great service, and we've got people who know the beer. I'm fortunate enough to have a staff that's been here a long time. We don't have a lot of turnover. They're friendly and engaging. Yeah. And we got great beers from, 50, 60 great breweries around the city of Pittsburgh.
Yeah. That's got to be a fun challenge, like when you, for example, when you roll into stout season, which, by the way, stout season is 12 months long. Let's just get that out there. But, stout season rolls in, right?
I didn't say we went to 0. I just said we went to 3. All right.
But it's got to be fun to kind of a fun challenge. You've got all these local breweries, but to find, 10, 12 that are different, that aren't the same profiles. I mean, because, how many do a chocolate stout? How many do an oatmeal? Just to find, it's going to be a fun challenge.
It is. And, and look, the brewers are like chefs, right? They like new things. They like to try different creations. What people are doing with hops anymore. I mean, You know, they don't even keep. You know, even a lot of the mainstream IPAs are no longer the things that you can find all of the time because they're making, you know, some subtle and others not so subtle changes to, you know, to their profile. And that's great, right? I mean, it's, you know, for me, I liken coming here to, you know, like a flea market, right? You come in here, it's something different all the time because, you know, and by the way, our beers are not the same. Last year, 80 taps, we did, you know, more than 1,000 different beers on the draft lines, right? And
that's crazy.
More than 3,000 different. And, you know, part of it is because the brewers change, right? So it's, you know, we can keep, you know, Brew Gentleman's General Braddock. It's a great beer on all the time because they make it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, but we don't, and it's nothing against that. It's just, you know, there are people coming in. You can find that in a lot of places. So let's give them something else that might be unique and worth trying. And, you know, General Braddock, we still have on quite a bit, but, you know, we're not dedicating, you know, anybody's beer 100% because it kind of minimizes the fun we want to provide to people.
I love that. That's so.
Do you publish an end of year list? Like, here's all the beers we did. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Well, I need a hell of a bigger binder than the one you guys were looking for, right? So,
I would take it as a challenge, though. I think I'd start ticking off. Which ones did I have?
Yeah. You know what your next challenge is? We're out of beer, so let's do another.
Is it time?
Another mystery beer. Mystery beer. So that voice you hear, shout out to one of our female owner brewers in Kansas City, Bree Burrows, who owns Big Rip. That's her voice. She came on the podcast and kept singing the mystery beer song, and so we made it. Now she's the official part of the show. So
okay, there we go.
So what do we have here? We've got.
I thought it was your turn to read.
Oh, it is. It's some. This is some beer karma right here. So somebody brought me this beer. Shout out to Jeff. Radius Brewing Company out of Emporia, Kansas, which is about 45 hour from here. It's called Infusication. I have no idea what style it is. He didn't tell me, but it's a big ass
crowler.
Yeah, big ass crowler.
Wow.
Radius Brewing. Yep. So I'm gonna crack it open.
So we don't know the style.
No,
not yet.
We're gonna find out. I mean, you know that's the thing with crowlers, though. There's not enough space to write what the style it is sometimes, and so you just got to roll with it. But he'll be happy. I saw him earlier before I came, so he'll be happy to that. You know what? That's a lie. It is. Jeff did not bring me this beer. It's something I did attributed this beer to the wrong person.
No, he won't be happy.
No, he won't. He doesn't listen anyway. It's fine.
Well, we have.
Sunshine.
So you mentioned it. So this is a thing we believe in: beer karma. Put good into the world. Beer will come back to you.
Yeah. Oh, hold on.
Bad pour.
We have two rules on this show. Rule number 1: don't die, or try not to. Rule number 2: don't be a dick, and that covers a lot of things, right? And so, you know, if you obey rule number 2, then your beer karma is good, and if you give beer comes back. You know, most of that. So when we came for, I'm sorry, I'm just holding on. When we came to on that Sunday, and I think your staff were a little taken aback because we're like, how many collabs do you guys have? This many. That we want all of them.
And I can't remember who it was, the guy you had behind the bar. And he just lines them up.
Yeah. And people were like, you guys are taking all those beers? Absolutely. You know, and the fun thing about those, you know, we've got a nutty listener. Shout out to Phil. He thought it would be a good idea for us to crowdfund our trip to Pittsburgh. And so we did a little crowdfunding, and our goal was we're going to bring beers back from the collabs and from different parts. And the amount of people who gave us money was pretty funny. Hilarious. But most of those beers, we didn't drink them. We gave them out, which was, you know, we're just building up that beer karma.
I don't know that I actually kept any of the collabs.
I have none of them.
Yeah.
I
gave them all out.
We gave them all out.
And then we have a bunch. We stopped in Dayton, Ohio on the way, which who knew Dayton was a hopping beer scene?
Yeah, who knew? Very, very nice beer scene.
Which we stopped in at a brewery there and did the same thing where we're going to need one of all of your beers.
All of them, right?
Yeah. I'm going to say this is probably either just an American stout or or a porter, but it's pretty dark. I think it's probably a stout.
There's not much nose to it.
No, but I'm going to say it's probably a stout. It's a nice beer. We're just guessing at this point. It's got
So there's no ABV written on the can either.
It is, but I have not looked.
Oh, it is. Okay.
So it's got a little bit of roastiness.
It's portery.
But I mean, here I had this conversation the other day about what's the difference between a porter and a stout. You know, and they're cousins. So, let's see.
It's in the Midwest.
Let's see what kind of cicerone you are. I'm gonna say it's probably a stout. It's a little heavy to be a porter, and it's very dark.
You know what? Whichever one it is, it's ish.
Dark-ish, stout-ish, porter-ish. It's good. It's got some roast to it. Got some chocolate notes. I think it's a good beer. What?
Almost a little smoky.
Almost. Yeah, I could see that. It's probably, but the ABV might be the telltale sign if it's a stout or a porter. You think it's sneaky?
A little sneaky.
What would you think?
I don't know.
Mike, you just get to judge by the color.
Yeah, I mean the sneaky part now is throwing me off, guys. I mean that's not fair.
Do you think?
He said it's sneaky. I did not. But based on, I mean, even that head. I mean, it looks like to me. It looks like a stout. I don't know. What do you think the ABV is? 6.1. I'm gonna go 6.1.
I'm gonna go 6.8.
6.8. You just want to take a wild guess?
Well, look, I mean, I was at 4.8 until you said sneaky, and then I was like, okay, well,
what we got? Does it even say it on there? It would be written on the thing. It's not going to say it on the crowler.
Well, yeah, he didn't write it anyway.
Folks, check the notes, and we'll put it in the notes.
Yeah, I was looking to see if there were any other little places for him to write on, but there are not.
Well, it's still a nice beer.
You're gonna have to go to the old Untapped tape.
Yeah. So, Mike, is there a particular style that you like to drink?
Uh-oh, did we lose him?
We lost your. We can see you talking.
Oh, it looks like he's on mute.
Yeah, you muted yourself.
He's got to undo it.
Better.
There we go.
Were you looking up the name of the beer?
Yeah. Okay. You know what I was trying to do on my phone, although it's I guess it's linked to the laptop somehow.
Oh.
Just see if I could find out the ABV of that beer by going on Untapped. But
infusion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, when you did that, it kind of screwed with you. I can probably do it.
So, all right.
Do you have a style that you lean toward that you love?
So West Coast IPAs are my preference. I like bitter beers, but anytime I can find a West Coast style session, I would much rather 3, 6, 8, 7% beers anymore. I mean, is really the tipping point. And I don't know that I can go anywhere and only have 3 beers, right? So, so I look as much as I can to find sessions, but look, I enjoy a good sour as well. And, if you give me anything, I'll drink it. But I mean, if you're asking me what I would lean in towards and take home, it's always been kind of a standard West Coast style.
Got it.
And I
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and anymore, if you were going to follow up and say which one's your favorite, I treat them like I treat wines. I go into the store, I look at the back of the label, and if it looks appealing, I do it.
Yeah.
It's the same for me on IPAs, and to be honest with you, my palate's not specific enough to be able to tell even from how all the hops are described.
Yeah, heard.
How I think it's going to taste.
Yeah.
So I just take home as many different ones as I can find. Right.
So I've looked up that beer on Untapped. So I'll just read the description first because this. Generally, we're wrong in this game. It says looks like a stout, right? That's what it says. Looks like a stout, but drinks like a heavily hopped IPA. Dank pine, fruit aromas, and flavors, and a hint of roastiness. It is a black IPA.
A black IPA, okay.
Yeah. And
I would not have guessed that.
So 4.4 is definitely wrong.
Yeah. Would you like to guess the ABV? Because I can see it.
No, I'm going to stick with my 6.8.
What did you say? If black IPA now?
Well, I said 4.8, but now black IPA, I'm going to say 7.2.
7.7.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a good beer because it's confusing to those unless that's the whole thing. There was a whole thing on Instagram or somewhere where there was like 6 or 7 new master cicerones that all passed the test at the same time, and to pass that test, you have to be fucking mad because
your palates are crazy.
But you have to go in on something like this, and I'm thinking stout. How black IPA did not cross my mind. So,
even as you told me, I'm not going to. I take a sip, and it doesn't. I still don't think that
because it's got so much roastiness, and it's not super bitter.
Right.
It's like you said, it's sneaky.
Well, but
that explains it. Sure. Right. I mean,
Mike just said he's like, my palate isn't so great. But I think more people actually are that way. We just like to act like we know because we love beer and talking about beer. But I think most people do not have as discerning a palate as we want to believe.
Well, no, and really just we do a lot of sensory at the brewery, and it's
you and I tried that.
Yeah, it's really everybody's sensory is different, right? I mean,
listen, at the end of the day, you like what you like, right? I mean, and that's okay.
Heard, Jeff. At the end of the day, is it good or is it not good? That's really what it is.
And you may like some styles and not like others, and that's fine.
And that doesn't matter because I've got some friends and acquaintances that I'm like, really, does it really matter? Is it any good? Quit doing that weird flex. Well, the roastiness is not as roasty as I'd like. Who gives a shit?
Right.
Does it taste good and does it get you there?
Right.
I mean, really, because who wants to stop at 3?
Right. Exactly.
So, do you like? You said you like West Coast. Do you like high IBU? You like piney? What's your? Because one of my favorite beers, which they don't really do anymore. Which I haven't seen it. Lagunitas did Hop Stupid. You ever had a Hop Stupid?
I have not.
Bro, find you a Hop Stupid. It's supposedly 100 IBU. Supposedly.
Wow.
That's how they tout it. And it's I'm with you. I like the bitter. I like the piney. But I like everything else. But I do if you had to stick me on 2 styles, it's going to be stout and a West Coast IPA. And really, nobody's really doing West Coast anymore. Everybody's doing it's the hazies.
Oh, the hazies! I know. It's too much citrus. Too much citrus. It's not for me.
Yeah. I want one really citrusy.
Yeah,
and then I'm going to switch styles.
Well, if I've done nothing in 100 episodes of this podcast, I've at least exposed Nick to doing different things. Because
I didn't pay attention to beer before this show,
Mike. So the first episode. Episode number 1, I brought in some sours as mystery beers. He didn't like them.
Well, no. I said I didn't like them.
Well, then he had a sour from a particular brewery. Shout out to Courtney Service at Surface Brewing, and then now he's a big sour fan after one episode.
But you know what? Because I didn't know what I was talking about. I had one experience with what I thought was a sour. I still don't even know what it was. I just remember somebody telling me it was a sour. I didn't like that one beer, so I said I don't like sours. That's dumb.
Well, it's like anything else. Every style, there's a wide range, right?
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't. You might not like a particular one. It doesn't mean that style is ruined, even though some people think that. I'm sure. I'm sure there because I can only imagine where you are. You get a wide range of customers. There's a lot of coaching going on.
Oh yeah, I mean, as you can imagine, near a ballpark, in particular in the summer, right? It's a little different in the winter because then the larger percent of the people here are really here for the beer, right? And for the style. The others, are domestic light beer drinkers, right? Yeah. And so, hey, we have a Helles, we have a Pilsner, we got a whole bunch of styles that we can give you because, and I'm sure you've heard this before, right? First beer anyone was ever given who's a mainstream domestic drinker was an IPA. And the first comment is that beer is too bitter for me. It's too bitter. And I said, all right, I'll go to the, to the tap. I'll bring them back a beer. Tell me what you think of this. Oh, wow, that's really good.
Yeah.
All right. It's not an IPA. These guys make more than that, but most people just don't know enough or aren't comfortable enough, right, to ask, or they don't understand the different styles. Beer is beer, right? It's a lighter beer, or it's just a lager versus an ale. There's a whole spectrum that for baseball games, you got about 10 seconds to have a conversation and try and meet someone. And we do it by deselection, right? The only domestic I have is the local domestic, which is Iron City Icy Light, right?
Smart.
People always roll their eyes. You have 500 beers, but you don't have Miller Lite. It's like, you know what? Because there's 500 other bars where you can go and have Miller Lite, right? So, and again, I get plenty of, I'd hate to say, I won't tell you that I'll drink a Miller Lite, when I'm mowing the lawn, because I won't, but I might have a Heineken because it'll take me back to the
I'm not going
snob
to
times when I was a kid, right? So, I just never liked the taste. Budweiser in particular, I mean, it was a taste thing. I just never liked the taste.
Yeah, heard. That's all we could drink in high school. That's all we could drink in high school.
Plus, I always feel like I'm supporting the Cardinals. If I drink a Bud Light, I just can't do that.
Yeah, you can't do that.
I just can't do that. It goes against my soul.
So what has Barrel and Flow meant to Mike's Beer Bar?
For me, it's been great to see, what Day has been able to accomplish in a couple of years by, really, first of all, bringing great beer to Pittsburgh, right? And creating a relationship with, Black-owned breweries around the country, and, giving a platform that's become now a national, event, which, what does it mean for me? I mean, first of all, it's great to see from a personal standpoint, from a business standpoint. We're a small business, and we're getting exposed and meeting with other small businesses who are in very similar fashion, trying to improve upon their craft, and doing it in a circumstance that anyways, from a people perspective is just it's a bigger platform, right? I mean, it really is it's a conference that's all inclusive. As a bar owner, that's what, and as a brewery owner, right? You're servicing the public. We are all inclusive. I mean, it's so, I've just had a great time meeting people from, even though it's only once a year, from outside of Pittsburgh who are working on a business. And, for us, it's just great to be part of. And I'm just thrilled every time, Day comes in and tells me, about the next new plan he's got for next year. It's exciting to talk about, right?
I don't think his brain ever stops.
No, it doesn't. I mean, and he'll still come and say, "Hey, you still have any beer?" And I'll be like, "Hey, it was like 2 months ago, right? 3 months ago. I don't have any beer left. I mean, come on."
But we bought it all, apparently.
But it's been a privilege to be really part of it, and it's a lot of fun. For me, as like I said, just trying to, bring good people to more people, right? I mean, it's a strategy we've chosen is to support local beer. And, thankfully we're in a city where there's a whole lot of great breweries that make great beer.
Oh my God. Yes.
And it's, unfortunately we're also in a state that makes it really hard to get access to breweries from outside of the state. So
I've heard,
so it helps in that manner as well. So I couldn't be more pleased. And like I said, it's easy to work with Day. He's a great guy, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, I love the challenge when we like to hit your bar on the Sunday morning after the festival, and it's just a challenge. I flip through the binder, which I just want to say as many times as I can. It's a 3-ring binder of beer lists.
The binder,
but flip to the page with all the collabs and just start ticking them off. I'm ordering this one, ordering that one, ordering this.
Well,
Yeah,
for me, it's great you guys have the collabs, but I'm also looking at, okay, there's a lot of breweries that we have not been to,
Right.
or even the ones we've been to. I'm like, I've never had that beer, so I'm always looking for that one. I'm like, I don't care what it is, I've never had. I need to have that because I'm a Pittsburgh fan. I love that city, and I love the brewery scene is so dope. And I tell people all the time, we talk about this. People are like, Pittsburgh? I'm like, yes.
Yes.
People are like, they have no clue. So we're trying to be the Pied Pipers of Pittsburgh and Barrel and Flow and Mike's Beer Bar, and
this was actually the first year. This last year was actually the first year that we didn't just end up in some stranger's car having them drive us to breweries. I mean, look, it's just what happens.
Oh no, we ended up in cars that we knew this year.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
So no, it's and we see Elisa there, and we're like, hey, what's going on? gotta love Rhythm Brewing. Shout out to Rhythm Brewing, man.
But she is a constant force of nature.
She is.
She's terrific. She really is.
And I love it. It's for them on the Sunday. It's a destination to come to your bar every year on the Sunday, which is great. So,
no, we love seeing people, and seeing you guys come in, right? I mean, we know that it's a 4-day event for, the brewers in particular, 3 or 4 days. And, your schedule is filled with going and as it should be to a lot of the, breweries are part of that. So we're thrilled when we see you guys come in. I just wish it would be on a day when Metallica or the Pirates aren't playing, so that you really, can sit around and enjoy it in, maybe less hectic surroundings.
You know what? I don't mind that though. I like going in and seeing your place make money and do what you want it to do. So yeah. I'd rather see you at peak than empty.
I mean, it didn't really hold up my steak on the stone, so I was fine.
Yeah.
There we go.
Can I still order beer and can I still order food? Okay, we're good.
No,
you're good. You're good.
I don't know what the guy's name is. I think he has like a handlebar mustache behind the bar. He was just really, really. You got some really great bar staff.
Thank you.
They were really, really on
I feel like
it.
you're making up the handlebar stash.
Did he have a mustache? Didn't he?
I don't have anybody with a mustache.
I don't remember that.
Okay, that one guy.
and I only have 2 guys as bartenders. The rest are women. So I mean,
it's one of the guys.
It's one of the 2 guys.
Yeah,
one of the 2 guys. All right.
Yeah.
You sure that wasn't me that brought those beers out?
No, you were back on the salad station.
Just checking out, man. All right.
Well, look, I think it took a few people to bring them out. We did order all of them that you had.
Yeah.
And they had just been delivered too. You hadn't even stocked them yet.
Yeah. They had to go.
No, I know. I mean, well, that's the challenge also with the event, right? Is the distributor's probably not picking them up from you guys or getting it, until maybe Friday of the event, right? So a lot of that doesn't flow in until, the following week. Yeah. So I'd be willing to bet that had you been there 3 or 4 more days, I'd have probably been able to give you another 20 or 30 beers.
Wow. You hear that?
I'm just going to have to extend the trip next time. That's all.
I know.
One of our favorite stories, because the Vine Street crew, that's our dudes. And,
Missouri's first black-owned brewery.
Yeah. They were just thrilled that their beer was on tap there. That was a big deal in Kansas City, that they were there and that their beer was at Mike's Beer Bar. And it was like, it was just, and then Kemet, who you had talked to, one of the owners, it was, their first time to Pittsburgh, first time to Barrel and Flow. They were over the moon that, because they got a lot of love at the festival. They're like, our beer's on tap at Mike's Beer Bar. I'm like, yes, it's a real thing.
We were so glad that they came, because we've been talking them up for 2 years.
Well, yeah,
right.
No, it was a watershed moment for them, I think, and they're bringing a whole crew next year, as we are. It started out, Fresh Fest. I came by myself, 2019, and this year we had a contingent of like 7 people.
Right. Yeah.
So we're trying to at least double that, And what we have to do, we have to convince people, do not leave on Saturday, or you have to leave on Sunday. No, leave on Monday.
Right. On Monday.
Monday.
So you can go to Mike's Beer Bar. So,
yep.
And a few people heeded my message. The ones who didn't were very disappointed.
Right.
We had a few people who showed up on Sunday, and they had a flight that same day, so they showed up with their luggage and then had to leave. I'm like, well, I'm glad you got to see a little bit of what's happening on Sunday, but your bar is our first stop on Sunday.
I think I'm looking now because I put this in my calendar already for next year.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm looking.
It's all good.
Barrel and Flow. The Pirates are away.
Heard on that Sunday.
On that Sunday.
Okay.
So I think informally you ought to just say today, why don't you just put it on the calendar that after you guys have your brunch and your goodbye, that there's an informal get together here.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
I don't know if you remember this conversation. Elisa was like, and she went to you. We're like, because you've got that little stage, we should do a podcast on that Sunday there.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I think that would be.
We're gonna do a show.
That would be epic. You know, that way we can actually get her on the show.
Yes.
We will.
That's the only way. That's really meeting halfway, isn't it?
Yes.
That's the only way.
I'm like, because they always drive back on Sunday. I'm like, why? Stay another day, you know?
Yeah.
They're not driving farther than we are.
Yeah, exactly. We drive 12 hours. It's fine. It's fine.
I'll try and reach out before as well because, I mean, she has such a good time. I mean, I think last year she might have been here 3 times, including Sunday, the Metallica day. So,
yeah, I would not be surprised. No. Nick thought he had her locked in for the podcast when he bought their lunch.
I thought that was the strong move to get it locked in.
It is. I think. But I think as you learned, if you buy her lunch, you better do that podcast right away. Right? I mean,
I should have just taken the camera,
pull it out. Yep. But she's such a nice person. I mean, it's so nice to be around her.
Yeah, I mean, she's so amazing. Her and her husband, they're really great. But you know, we talk about Barrel and Flow as a family reunion. You know, this next year will be 5 years that we've been going either individually or together, and it's it's crazy when you go. You haven't seen these people in a year, and it's like, oh, we're back. And even if people was their first time going, they would just blown away by it. It's I mean, one of our buddy who came with us, and you met him, Brian. He grew up in Pittsburgh, but hadn't been in Pittsburgh in 20 years?
Yeah, something like that.
And he came back, and he was like, "Oh my God, I love this city. I love this event."
Yeah.
You know, this first time. You know, it's just
it brings you back, right? It's a city. It's got Midwestern values. It still has the hardworking mentality of back from the Steel days, and it's a big enough city that it has what every large city has, but still with a small town feel, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
beautiful city.
What brought me back after 35 years, right?
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it. It's just
And I feel like I'm never more than like a 15-20 minute drive to another brewery.
If that, it's very well. You know, it might Uber might say your map might say mile and a half, but it's going to take you 20 minutes because you got to
your hills and your roundabout route.
Right.
Weird.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But now I didn't ask you guys. I mean, I'm putting you on the spot.
Okay.
What's your favorite brewery from Pittsburgh? Now that you've been here a few times.
Oh.
Wow. I'm a fan of 11th Hour. When I say favorite, I will give you some of my faves. Brew Gentleman, Brew Burger, or is it Brew Burger or Pittsburgher?
Burgers?
Yeah, Burgers. Yeah.
Burgers? Yep.
I'm going to draw a blank, and I'm going to do this only because it's such a great story. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the brewery. It's that neighborhood brew. We took the scooters in. We were either too stupid or too drunk to know how to use the scooters at first.
What neighborhood? Like, what was it near?
It was not too far from Heinz Field when it was called Heinz Field. And it's
4 Points.
It's like a couple blocks from the one that's named after the area code.
Well, yeah. So 412, 4 Points.
4 points. That's the one.
4 points.
Yes.
And I'm gonna say the beer was good, but it was just that kicked off my first Pittsburgh walkabout day.
Yeah.
Okay. We just went in. We met our first strangers that drove us around.
Yeah, they took us to to the next brewery and to the next brewery
and a micro distillery.
Yeah. I mean,
And yeah,
this is what I've learned about Pittsburgh. That beer scene is so big and there's so much. It's hard to say, okay, what's my favorite? You know, it's like asking me what my favorite style is. It just really depends.
Right.
You know,
Right.
What's my mood that day?
Yeah, but it's definitely it's an undercover. And this is the thing: people in Pittsburgh know nothing about Kansas City, and vice versa, because that's not one of the. You don't think of that as, you know, people think, oh, St. Louis or Minneapolis or whatever. I'm like, no, Pittsburgh is doing the damn thing. You know, and I tell people, you know, I talk about Oklahoma City all the time, where people are like, Oklahoma City's got breweries. I'm like, absolutely. You know, it's just one of those things until you go and experience, you're like, oh, now I get it. And Pittsburgh is that city. Until you go, my favorite story is in 2019, I was going to Fresh Fest, and I'd never been to Pittsburgh. I was by myself. I knew I was going to the conferences, and, you know, you come out of that tunnel from the airport.
Yep.
You see, I'm like, holy shit, what is this?
Right? Isn't that a great impression?
Every time.
It's my
every single time.
Favorite.
Never gets old. It never gets old.
No, it never gets old. And then, you know, it was like a whirlwind of me learning about Pittsburgh, Ubering, people taking me around. It was just, you know, I'll never forget it. It was a watershed moment for me, beer wise, because, I mean, you've been to the festival. That's the most people of color I've ever seen at any beer festival.
Right.
You know, and I've been to a lot of beer festivals. Mm-hmm. You know, it was mind blowing to me that, you know, that it was a thing, and it's not a surprise that it's the #1 beer fest in the United States.
I mean, I would say that's the smallest bro to beer drinker ratio of any beer festival.
Well,
right?
you know, because it's not it's all the things you would want. It's not just beer and food. It's beer, food, art, music, people. It's just, you know, it's as Ed likes to say, it's a vibe.
It's a whole vibe.
It's a whole vibe.
It's a whole vibe.
You know, and so, you know, the shout out to Vine Street, because they were blown away by the reception that they got. You know, and they had a beer on at Mike's Beer Bar. So
and listen, you know, I have to. I'm whispering this, you know, for effect, right? But if they want to bring more along with them next year, you know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I won't, you know, I'll take as many as they want to bring.
We can make that happen.
That's easy, bud.
Well, I talked to Fuhrer. Hopefully, the distributor said they were either tight with time or tight with whatever, that they couldn't. They couldn't allow anyone to bring more than one beer, I think, last year. But he said that this year he's planning to allow more than that. So hopefully that'll be the case.
We should have just muled some of their cans. I mean, hell, we brought half their damn jockey box. We sure did.
Yeah, there was some crazy text right before we left. Hey, can you guys take stuff for us?
That's exactly what happened. Mike, thanks for coming on, man. This has been great.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. I mean, it's great. I look forward already to seeing you guys in August. But you got to get me out there. I mean, maybe the Steelers get out there for a playoff game. They won't be at home, so
you know,
if they get into one, it'll be out where you are.
I mean, you know, I'm a kind of an undercover. I'm not really undercover. I'm a Steelers fan at heart. I really am. I heard that Kenny Pickett would come into your bar. Is that true?
Well, these days I'm not sure he's right?
But he's not sure.
You can't come in. Got it.
Not sure we want to play that one up these days, but we'll see. Right? No, he's a good kid. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine.
That's the building owner.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, brother, we appreciate you coming on. We're gonna. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Where can people find you guys on the social medias?
So, mikesbeerbar.com is our website, but you find us on Facebook, Instagram, less on Twitter, but still, you know, but all at Mike's Beer Bar. So, you know, look us up. If you go to either our website or on, I don't know if it shows up on Facebook anymore. I think they dropped the menu option there, but on our website. You ever want to come and just have a little, you know, bit of a good time and look through a beer menu, It's up there on our website all the time. It's changing every day. Like I said, 1,200 different beers on draft last year, and more than 3,000 different beers
Crazy.
in total that we sold. A good majority of those local beers. So
I feel like we need to call like Guinness or somebody. There's got to be a record there for something, right?
Well,
and if people are visiting Pittsburgh, I mean, I know we said it, but tell them again where they need to go.
Yeah, I'm right on Federal Street, which is across the street from PNC Park, right off the Clementi Bridge, which is right next to downtown. We're on the North Shore of Pittsburgh. So, like I said, just look for PNC Park and look for the crowds, and they'll all be standing at the door waiting to come in here, right? So be part of that. But well centrally located. Hours, we're open 12 o'clock, open till midnight every night, 12:30 on the weekends. And come and ask for Mike. There really is one. And
I've got to get myself into that ballpark. I'm a baseball dork. I love going to new stadiums, and I just haven't gone because I've just loved exploring the city. But I need to get into that park. All my friends and all my sports writer friends, I've never heard anybody not put that in the top three.
Yeah.
If it's not the number one, it's in the top 3 parks.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I know you guys will have a schedule. So the Pirates leave town on Thursday. I just, again, looked at the calendar.
Okay.
Before Barrel and Flow.
Okay.
Right? So 2 days before, the Pirates are still in town. They leave town that Thursday. They haven't announced the times, but usually Thursday's a getaway day, which means it's a day game.
Yeah.
And so if you guys have something going that night, I at least have 2 tickets because I'm a season ticket holder.
Ooh.
You can have my seat, so you tell me.
Heard.
And we'll get you in the park.
Heard.
And if you need more, I have half decent
So
connections.
now we're leaving.
I'm making plans.
So now we're leaving on Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, look, and I'll tell you, because I want to keep putting this out there. Our dream is I'm working on getting us an RV sponsor because I want to roll Madden style from Kansas City to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
We're going to make this happen.
But one last quick story. So, I love your logo. I think it's super great. It's black and gold. I was working one day and I had this shirt on and they're like, Mike's Beer Bar, what? So I have to explain to them where Mike's Beer Bar is. She's like, I got to take a picture of my husband's name's Mike. I was like, okay, it's not his. That's not the real Mike, but all the Mikes out there, you have a friend in Pittsburgh.
Well, it's funny. In the summer, I'll look out the window and we have a sign that says, obviously it has the brand on it, but it's a vertical sign with Mike's and it's the shape of the tap.
Yeah.
And I'll look out the window and I'll see a woman usually taking a picture of a guy standing under that sign. Like, there's another Mike.
One more.
Another Mike.
All the damn Mikes.
And I don't know if this is a trend that I feel good about, but my second best selling size is XXL, so the Mikes are quite large guys.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
The triple.
I mean, I'm only a double fat man, but
triple fat man. All right, stand by, man.
All
Appreciate
right.
you.
Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
You've been listening to Beers with Nigel, a show about beer and other stuff, hosted by Nigel Woodbury and that other guy, Nick Parker. Beers with Nigel is poured for you by Dire Oil Graphics, providing bumper-to-bumper graphic design, promo products, and print services. Find them at direoil.com. Beers with Nigel is a proud member of the Fredcast Network and is available on all of your favorite podcast flavors. Find Beers with Nigel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and ask Alexa to play the Beers with Nigel podcast.